Thank you. The Energy Information Administration, a government-run site, stated that by 2150 there will be absolutely no new oil production, meaning oil will cease to exist at this time. Many different sources seem to agree that oil will eventually run out, but everyone with an opinion on this matter seems to think differently on when and why it will run out. Geologists, economists, and professors of science all tend to agree we need to start using some kind of alternative fuel, not to completely replace petroleum oil, but to prolong peak years of the oil industry. First, I will be talking to you about the problem of our consumption of oil. Secondly, I will be talking about the main causes and effects of our consumption. And lastly, I will be explaining how alternative fuel will help lower consumption rate and possibly even prevent us from running out of fuel. I would like to jump right into my first main point, which is the problem with our consumption. Currently, the oil production is running at full capacity with little to no surplus. This meaning that there's absolutely no extra oil to go around to equate to growing demand for oil. A National Geographic article entitled "How Long Will Cheap Oil Last?" says that oil demand fueled by developing nations like China will grow 1.6% a year, from 82 million barrels of oil a day to 121 million barrels a day by the year 2030. Given current trends of oil consumption, we will eventually run out. No one knows when, but all analysts see it coming. This is why we need some kind of change before it is too late. Next, I will be talking about the many different kinds of effects and causes of this. Many different countries have rising demand for oil. An MSNBC article written by John W. Scone stated that America still continues to be the biggest oil consumer. However, we have not found any big oil finds in our country since 1970. This is the case with many of the high consumption countries around the world. They import millions and millions of the stuff but have no way of producing it for themselves. As my chart shows, from popular mechanics, all these little dots are the current fuel fields that we know of. However, we haven't found any big, other than those, we haven't found any other in the last 10 years, which means we have found all that is going to be found. However, what that chart does not show is that the rate at which they're depleting. By next year, we assume that everyone is going to lose 10% of what it has in it now. Oil mining also is proven to destroy wildlife. An article written by Danielle Mohari states that only 5% of Alaska wilderness is remaining to be off limits to drilling. We also drill a lot of our oil in the middle of the ocean, which has been known to kill off any marine life curious enough to go near these rivers, as well as when they have accidental oil spillage. Peak years are drawing near, ladies and gentlemen. To explain to you what peak years are the years in which consumption and production are at an equal level, meaning after these peak years are over, it will slowly be a downhill battle of oil running out. Geologists and economists alike differ on when they think these peak years will hit us, but they all agree it is inevitable. The MSNBC article that I spoke to you about earlier states that some are seeing global production peak as soon as next year. However, many see this as an over-exaggeration. John Wood, Gary Arlong, and David Morehouse, scientists of EIA, did this chart. They show that peak years will start from the year 2037 and end in 2047. And they also went on to say that oil will completely halt between 2075 and 1125, which is not too far away, folks. The National Geographic article quoted Jim Mayer, the director of the Oil Depletion Analysis Center, that peak years are within sight. Let's put it that way, no matter whose analyst you consult. And went on to say that it's either with us now, rapidly approaching, or within the next 20 to 30 years. Lastly, I will be talking to you about how we can prevent or even prolong the oil from running out. Alternative fuel has the opportunity to prevent this problem. Though it says that oil price will eventually make us switch, a BBC article written by Will Small states as it becomes more scarce, price will inevitably go up, which will lead to us having to change to alternative fuel. Now, before we get to that point, alternative fuel will help oil consumption. If America uses a reasonable amount of our corn to make ethanol, we can reduce our oil dependency by 8%. On top of that 8% reduced by ethanol, if we start using electricity as an alternative fuel source, that will reduce our oil dependency by another 60%. So just those two fuel sources alone can reduce our oil dependency by 68%, which will in turn reduce increase the years that we have of remaining oil. The use of alternative fuel will also help the economy. What we will get out of it, of helping the economy, will entail that America will be able to buy oil even after peak years and let us have it until it runs out completely. On top of America being able to provide it to us, Americans in general will be able to spend more on fuel in turn if the economy is better. However, this isn't all on the government's shoulders, ladies and gentlemen. The government can only do so much to help it from running out. When the government decides to start selling us different alternative fuels, it's up to you and you alone to start using those fuel sources. Now, so make the smart choice and use those new and unusual fuels over our quote-unquote dependable fuel. I want to briefly recap what I've talked to you about. I've talked to you about the problem with our consumption, the causes and the effects of our consumption, as well as what we can do with alternative fuel to help lower our consumption. I would like to leave you all thinking of this. Imagine your life if you one day woke up and found out there was no more fuel for us to use, and how that would impact your life. Thank you.